Hello, everyone, and welcome to day 5. Welcome to day 5 of 8 days. And if this is your first time joining us, and as I put in my wonderful earbuds, if this is your first time joining us, I want to welcome you in particular and let you know that you can always watch these episodes that have already taken place. Sorry, brain's working a little slowly right now. On our YouTube channel, that's where the recordings are. So please, by all means, go there, watch those videos, and get caught up. All right, want you to benefit from as much of this as you can. And I say that, and then I also say, I'm not an expert in health. I'm a pastor. I'm a woman. I'm a mother. I'm a writer. I'm a pastor. I'm a friend. I'm a child, a sibling. I have all these different aspects of my life, as do you. And in each of these aspects, there are moments when I do better at them than others, right? I'm sure you can relate to that too. I'm no health expert. I can't say that I do health in any expert fashion by any means, but I can say that I enjoy these principles of health. I enjoy learning about them, and I enjoy trying to put them into practice step by step. So I want to encourage you to join me in that. So you can go back to day 1. Day 1, we focused on choice. Day 2, and we've been jumping around a bit with the word creation, which is our acronym. C is for choice. R is for rest, but we skipped rest. We're actually going to do rest next week, Monday or Tuesday. I can't remember now. E is environment, and we did that on Tuesday. A is for activity. We did that yesterday. T is trust, and we did that on Monday. And today we are on what does I stand for again? Interpersonal relationships. We're not on that. We're going to be on that on Sunday. And O, that's where we are now, is outlook. And our last letter for the word creation is N. And our last session together, we will focus on nutrition. So I am thankful that you are joining me today, and that if you're not live with me, that's fine. I hope that you're able to catch the replay and get caught up. I want to do something. Let me see if I can do it. It may be a little too difficult for my technical abilities at this point. It's okay. It's not that important. I wanted to show you, to flip my screen so that when I show you these different prizes, you'll actually see them properly. I'll try for that on Sunday, okay? I'll make sure to set this up ahead of time. As a quick review on the different topics we've focused on, when it comes to choice, we do have the opportunity and the power to make choices, okay? We do. It may feel as though we don't, but we do. When it comes to trust, trusting in God is key. Now, I'm working off of a Christian perspective, and so that is, for me and for anyone who's a Christian, and for some of other faiths that also believe in God, that is just primary. And to be able to trust someone, anyone, is a beautiful thing. To be able to trust God is also beautiful and has some ups and downs. And I'm really glad that when you watch the replay on trust, you will not just hear from me, you will hear from Pastor, see, this always happens to me when I'm trying to name names, from Pastor Sherry Smith. You'll hear from her about her journey with trust in God. And when it comes to environment, you'll hear from Scott Anderson and how he has deeply appreciated learning about and learning to intentionally focus on his environment. and not just for himself, but also for the sake of others. So you'll hear from Scott. And then yesterday, it was just me talking about activity, and today on Outlook. And on Sunday, we'll hear from Amishadai Grandjean. He'll be our special guest on Sunday, and I look forward to talking with him about interpersonal relationships. Now, if you're watching, I want to give you an opportunity to make sure that you identify yourself, make sure that I know you're here, because at the end of these 8 days, whoever's been tuning in with us, whether live or in the replay, want to make sure we know you're here, I know you're here, so that if at all possible, you can receive a prize. So right now is a great time to just put "I'm here" in the comments and let me know that you are here, present and accounted for. Today's topic on Outlook. Excuse me. Outlook can be defined as our attitude about life, our attitude about the life that we are experiencing, the time that we're in, how we respond to all of this. This is our attitude. And I'm sure you've bumped into somebody, or perhaps you've been the somebody who sometimes has a bad attitude. And it's tough to be around bad attitudes, right? It's tough. It's tough when you are the one with the bad attitude and you can't quite figure out how to shift it, because you know that the best attitude to have, the good, most appropriate attitude, is a positive one, an optimistic one. For years, I thought that I would be the kind of person who just could never say that I love my job, because to say you love your job, that just I felt fickle about it. I felt like today I'll say I love it and tomorrow I'll say I don't. So I'm just not one of those people who can say I love my job. That's what I thought. I thought there are those people in the world, and if you can relate to this, say I relate. There are those people in the world who wake up every day saying, I was made for this. And, I'm ready to change the world. I'm ready to face the day. And they leave their home every day just excited to do the work. Or in this current pandemic context, they get to their desk at home every day and they're ready to do the work. And I thought, I don't think I can be that person. It took me some time to realize that it wasn't because I was a perfectionist that I couldn't be that person. It was because of something else. My outlook wasn't simply about being a perfectionist who had to get everything just so and yet never felt as if they were accomplishing that ideal. That's the reality with those of us who are perfectionists. It doesn't mean we're perfect. We don't think we're perfect, but we like to try to be, right? And so it took me a while to realize that my attitude wasn't actually directly related to my perfectionism. My perfectionism was more complicated than that. So let's take a look together at Outlook. Outlook. There's an old Jewish proverb that says, "We don't see things as they are. We see things as we are." We don't see things as they are. We see things as we are. How we are, who we are, how we perceive ourselves and our value, all of that plays into how we see the world. And all of that plays into what our outlook looks like. Of course, optimism is the ultimate. Okay, if we're going to use maybe such a big word. We want that optimism. We want to be able to say, and by optimism now, I'm not saying a false sense of cheerfulness or something like that, right? I think for those of us who haven't been optimistic for a lot of the time, we tend to doubt those who seem to be optimistic. We tend to think, we're pessimistic about their optimism. We think they're perhaps putting on a show, faking it till they make it. And the reality, though, is that there is such thing as optimism that is beautiful, that is healthy, and that helps us to work through life in ways that are beautiful, that are good, that are really truly helpful to our lives and the lives of others. So again, we don't see things as they are. We see things as we are. Are you optimistic? I'll say this like I've said it before. This is a no judgment zone. So if I say this question to you and you respond with, no, I'm not optimistic, this is not now an opportunity for you to beat yourself up and feel bad about yourself. No, this is a time for us to explore and to figure out, okay, what's the why? Why are we where we are? And this is going to take time. You may, after one conversation, discover, that's the issue with me. I was in a conversation just earlier today with a friend, hadn't talked for a very long time. And as we were talking, she got some clarity over something, which was not because I am, some sage. But sometimes it helps to just talk something out. And she gained this clarity in a conversation. In an hour's span, she gained clarity. That doesn't always happen to us. So don't be disappointed if that's not your story. But we want to look at this question. Am I optimistic? What is your response to that? You don't have to put that in the comments. You can keep that to yourself. Or text it to a friend or jot it down. Just be honest. Be honest about it. Now, those who are able to have an optimistic spirit about them are, as a result of that optimism, able to experience a life that is so much more fulfilling, a life that actually feels as if, you're flourishing instead of maybe just kind of making it. And optimism isn't always directly tied, or shouldn't have to be directly tied, to our circumstance. But sometimes our circumstance has to somehow shift in order for our outlook to change. Remember, there's a relationship between all of these parts. Like yesterday when we looked at activity, we looked at both mental activity and physical activity. And there's a relationship between the two. We can't divorce them from each other. Similarly here, when it comes to outlook, sometimes it takes first a shift in circumstances in order for outlook to change. Other times, we have to work on our outlook and just sort of work our way to the shift. Again, this is an opportunity for you to think about your own life. If you're not experiencing optimism, why is that? And is it related at all to your current circumstance, to how you see the world based on you? I'll read this for you. One study, this is a study on depression, included 817 patients assessed for depression the day prior to coronary artery bypass surgery, and then again 6 months later. It included follow-up for up to 12 years. Researchers found that the patients with moderate to severe depression prior to their surgery or 6 months after surgery had more than a 2-fold higher risk of dying earlier than non-depressed patients. Those who were depressed before surgery but were able to get rid of the depression were at no greater risk of dying earlier than those who were never depressed. So this study looks at the impacts of depression, which is often the reason why we don't have a positive outlook, an outlook that is optimistic. And there are various reasons for depression. And depression is not something that you can typically just snap out of. There are those moments when you feel low, when you feel maybe discouraged, frustrated. And then there's depression. Depression, where the brain isn't functioning as it should because of the lack of certain hormones, nutrients, I forget the exact word there. But there's a deficiency. And if that deficiency is fixed, then the individual can make some good strides toward overcoming depression, or at least navigating it in a more effective manner. So the book isn't here to just tell us, hey, you shouldn't be depressed, you should be optimistic. No, no, no. It's not doing that, but it's helping us understand the impacts of not being able to be an optimistic individual. Now, I want to go over 7 pieces of good news related to optimism. If you are an optimistic person, bless your soul. And I hope and pray that God daily brings people into your life somehow or another that you can bless with your optimism. It's not simply about your ability to say that the glass is half full instead of half empty. It's more than that. And so I'm going to look at these 7 things related to optimism. And I'll put them here on the screen one by one. So optimism, and these are related to the word creation and the 8 health principles that we're looking at, okay? But of course, since outlook is one of the 8, then now there are only 7, okay? So number 1, optimism helps you realize that you have more choices. If our first session together was tough for you to hear, to think through, because you don't feel as though you have choices, you don't feel as though you have agency, you don't feel as though you are in control of significant parts of your life, realize that somehow, if and when you are able to work through various things, you will get to a point where you realize, oh, I do have choices. Excuse me. If you aren't able to see your choices, to understand the choices that you are able to make, could it be because of your outlook? So that's the first one. Optimism helps you realize that you have more choices. The second one is this. Optimism will help you rest easier. Now, we haven't gone to rest yet. We'll get to rest next week. If you are familiar with Seventh-day Adventism, and I'm a Seventh-day Adventist, then you're familiar with our understanding of the Sabbath. And many people I've recognized in more recent years who are not Seventh-day Adventist have been developing an understanding for the rest that comes with taking a Sabbath, as in taking a day, picking a day of the week and taking that time away from the rush of life and the regular rhythms of life to relax, to catch your breath. As a Seventh-day Adventist, I believe that Sabbath is actually a certain day of the week and begins at sundown today. It's exciting. As a child, I didn't fully understand Sabbath. Not to say that I completely understand it now, but I have a joy for it now that I didn't have as a child. And now it's something to look forward to, and it's something to celebrate. Now, rest. When you are able to experience an optimistic mindset, an optimistic outlook, your ability to rest is greater. And so whether your rest comes on Sabbath or your rest comes day to day when you decide to go to bed a little bit earlier each night, whether your rest comes by being able to pause and have moments of reflection instead of just go, 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 with optimism, you're better capable of finding rest. That's number 2. Number 3, optimism will help you to seek a healing environment. Think about that. How many of you have a space that you would consider to be a healing environment? I can't help but point this out because I've been staring at it for the last, 21 minutes. And it is right there. Do you see that? It's a yellow leaf. I know. My whatever that plant is that I can't remember the name of, peace lily. Yeah, I repotted it, and I didn't set all of it back down properly in the soil, and some of it now is showing my lack of attention and care. And so my environment here, that has been for days a beautiful, peaceful, healing space, now is a reminder that healing has to be intentional. Creating an environment that is meaningful, that enables you to rest, that enables you to catch your breath, requires attention. But if you're optimistic, you're more capable of creating that and of paying attention to the details of your environment. And so I'm happy that I've seen this, because now, after this, I'll just take some scissors and snip that poor yellow leaf off. Optimism helps you to seek a healing environment. Now, number 4, optimism will help you realize that you have what it takes. You have what it takes to be active. Okay, I didn't put that all in there because it was a little long. Yesterday we talked about activity, the mental and the physical. Optimism enables you to say, I can do this. I can actually be active. I can engage my mind with more than television. I can engage my body with movement, even on a regular basis, even for 30 minutes. Really get that heart pumping and blood flowing and sweat dripping, or if you're someone who sweats, some of y'all don't, but that's okay. Optimism will help you believe that you have what it takes to be active. So if you're struggling with activity, if you're struggling with that aspect of your life, could it be because you lack optimism? We talked yesterday about how there are messages that we keep on repeating to ourselves, and when it comes to activity, oftentimes those negative messages are, I'm just not that person. I'm not athletic. I've never been, this is just the body I'm in, and I'm just going to have to deal with it. That's a feel like you're just resigned to what's happened. That's not an optimism. Well, you may say, I'm just being realistic. Again, that's not an optimism. So what is it going to take for us to get to that optimism? Because that optimism enables you to believe, enables me to believe that we have what it takes to be active. It's number 4. Number 5, optimism helps us to trust. Trusting in somebody, trusting in God. This is a big step. Trust is no small thing at all. Trust takes time. It takes healing. It takes wrestling with your own insecurities. Some people, you just know you can trust them. There's a feeling you get that, this is someone that I know is honest, it has integrity, I can allow them into my life. I know they'll take care of my life, as in they'll be careful with it, and this will be safe space for me. Optimism helps us to trust. It'll help us to trust in God if we're able to have this optimistic mindset. And it'll help us also in our interpersonal relationships. That's number 5. Number 6, optimism will improve your interpersonal relationships. If you can trust people and not have your guard up at all times, setting appropriate boundaries is totally fine and healthy. But there are times when, because of our inability to trust, we have walls instead of boundaries. Their boundary lines are, they're there, but we erect these walls. Like, see my boundary. Okay, here it is, and that's hard. It's hard to have healthy interpersonal relationships when we have these walls that are put there because of distrust, which is probably related to past hurt. So again, this is an opportunity for us to ask why. If I'm not experiencing optimism, why is that? And how is reading about it helping me to unpack that? Optimism will help you have a positive and cheery outlook, and that will improve your interpersonal relationships. Interpersonal relationships are not breezy. If you've never had a disagreement in an interpersonal relationship, I dare say, uh, are you really investing in that relationship? I wonder. Okay, I know that was a critical phase. But yeah, are you really investing in a relationship if you've never had a point of conflict, if you've never had to work through something? And if you've had to work through something, were you quick to stop working through it because it was messy and because you just decided, it's probably not going to resolve, so why even bother? Optimism improves our interpersonal relationships. It doesn't simply make us happy people that other people want to be around. No, it keeps us honest, and optimism helps us realize that, hey, at the end of the day, if this is a relationship I value, we can work through it. If this is not a relationship that I need to cut myself off from because of abuse, for example, if this is a relationship that truly can be healed and will and has the potential to be healthy, optimism allows me to say, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna make the strides necessary to rebuild this bridge. Optimism will improve our interpersonal relationships. And lastly, optimism helps us to make positive nutrition choices. You may be thinking, and maybe when we actually get to this topic on nutrition, you may be thinking, I keep doing the same old thing over and over and over again. I just have no willpower. This is the food I grew up eating. I just can't change. Or maybe you're struggling with food choices because of your finances. And we know very well, or if you don't, now you know, that so often people can't afford the trip to the grocery store because of where they live. Maybe they live in a place where they don't have a car and they're depending on public transit. And in order to get to a store quickly that has the fresh fruits and vegetables and all of that, they would need to take this bus to that train to that bus. And the deep inconvenience of that, and the fact that they more than likely in this situation lack the funds to either take the transit on a regular basis or buy a car or get an Uber, means that their pockets are not full or their bank accounts are not full of money that enables them to afford the grocery store food. What is more convenient to them is the store down the road, the convenience store. That is convenient for a reason. It's right there. And that space more than likely does not have the food that helps you to make positive nutrition choices. It has the food that's easy to throw together, easy to put in your mouth, and it's easy to regret consuming, but that's what's readily available to you. There are these things called food deserts. If you're not familiar with that term, I encourage you to look it up. But truly, there are people who lack access to good food. So you may be wrestling with that right now, thinking, you know what? I don't know how I'm going to make positive food choices when I can't actually get to the store that gives me the options that are healthy, that are good for me. So it's easy for me to say, well, optimism helps you to make positive nutrition choices, but there's likely other reasons why you're making nutrition choices that aren't positive if that is your situation. Again, we get to explore the why behind the things that we're doing. Why are we making these choices? Why are you eating what you're eating? Okay, being able to think through these details is an important part of making change. Still, I think it's helpful for us to look at these 7 points about optimism because it gives us a little bit more encouragement to start figuring out the whys and work toward this healthier space. Before we continue on, I want to play a brief video for you about Outlook.
Your outlook matters, and you have the power to control it. What we allow ourselves to think about, worry about, wish for, or focus on has a significant impact on our well-being and ultimately the well-being of those around us. One of the key components to a positive outlook is gratitude. You see, gratitude leads to happiness and to positive emotions. Finding the good and being grateful for the blessings in your life will help you better deal with adversity. Take 30 seconds and write down everything for which you're grateful. A job, sunshine, food on the table, everything, big, small, and in between. I'll bet your list is long. And every day, take a moment and add 2 or 3 more things to your list. You'll be happier. Trust me. The Bible says, rejoice always, pray continually, and give thanks in all circumstances. For this is God's will for you. Be safe, be healthy. That's creation life.
Have you ever kept a gratitude journal? If you have, go ahead and comment about that. I'd love to know if any of you watching have kept a gratitude journal and how that has impacted your outlook. I received a gratitude journal maybe a couple of years ago now. Excuse me, at some pastors' meetings that I was attending. And when I received it, my first thought was, because I didn't want one more thing to have to kind of keep up with. I'm the kind of person that has a bazillion things running through my brain, and, to have to pause long enough to write down something I'm thankful for, I didn't want that responsibility. I did try it for a little bit, and then I don't know what happened, but I stopped. More recently, I came across that journal and said, hey, I'm going to try again. And so I've been doing it, not every single day, because like this morning, I just didn't have time for it before having to move on with other things in my day. And so I didn't have that opportunity to reflect. But I did do some other reflection in another journal space. What I have found by going through this process of jotting down, and in my gratitude journal, it gives space for 3 things that you're grateful for. What I have found is that it's a great opportunity to slow down. So many of us need that slow down time. So many of us need to be forced to slow down, and some of us will be forced through sickness, and that's not a great force. Hopefully, ideally, you and I can make choices that help us to slow down without requiring a negative situation to first occur. I have enjoyed writing in my gratitude journal when I get to it. And this gratitude journal I have has quotes from famous people, some of whom I don't even know, about gratitude. And that's it. It's simple, it's straightforward. But I will say this. When you're not in the habit of gratitude, of saying, here's what I'm thankful for today, not 5 years ago, when you're not in that habit, initially it feels really strained. And you can come up with some answers that you're not really impressed by. Like, well, I should probably write my family. I should probably write my job. Okay. And there's a part of you that's like, yeah, I am thankful, but you feel like, but shouldn't I put something else in here? Maybe something that just sounds deeper, richer, more profound. And that may cause you to stop journaling. That may cause you to stop recording or trying to record your gratitude. I invite you to push through that, keep on moving, because you will get to a point where your thoughts of gratitude are absolutely genuine. You're not second guessing yourself, and you're putting down pen to paper these moments in time. And because you're putting them down on paper, pen to paper, you're that much more likely to remember them even throughout that same day. There was something a couple of days ago that I know I jotted down, and that's part of the reason why I still remember that thing and can refer back to it momentarily and say, yeah, that was a good thing. So I invite you to try a gratitude journal. Maybe you don't want to invest in an actual journal, but I will say one of the prizes for anyone who's tuned in for all 8 days is a journal. It's not a gratitude journal. It's just a plain lined journal. It does say Creation Life on the front to remind you of your health decisions. But you could start with just any paper and decide, okay, here's how it's going to go. I'm going to put the date. I'm going to number 1, 2, 3 or 1 and 2, and I'm going to write out what I'm grateful for. In fact, our study guide, our handy study guide, gives us some examples of how to do this act of gratitude, of how to think about the good things, even the great things that are happening in our lives. So this is a section of the chapter that's in each chapter that's called a skill builder. These are activities that you're encouraged to do after you've read all the information to help you actually put into practice what you've learned, right? This is not just about hearing, it's also about doing, living, being a certain way. So let's look at some examples. One good thing that happened to me today. Here are some examples. My child bought me a bouquet of wildflowers from our yard. Another one is my wife made my favorite meal for supper this evening. Or for me, it would be my husband, because he's the cook in our house. I make biscuits, but that's all. Another one good thing that happened to me today, I got the new job I had interviewed for 2 weeks ago. If that's been your story at some point, you know how exciting it is to know, I got it, all that hard work, I got it. Now, the study guide takes it further than just writing down one good thing that happened to you today. It also then invites you to explain it. My explanation for why this good thing happened. This is another way to internalize your gratitude. So, that first answer was my child brought me a bouquet of wildflowers from our yard. My explanation for this good thing, for why this good thing happened, was option 1. She has such a tender heart. She knows I love flowers and always thinks of me when she sees them. Another option could be she knows that I am desperately missing her grandma, my mother, who passed away 3 weeks ago, so she picked them to cheer me up. As I read these, it reinforces what I'm thankful for, if this is my gratitude. And it also reinforces how much this person I'm grateful for means to me. And it deepens my joy regarding this person. So if this were my child, now as I reflect on why this good thing happened, I am that more deeply grateful for my child and for the love that is blossoming through her, for her attentiveness to who I am and what I love and what I'm going through. This is all a beautiful thing. And if you've taken that time reflecting on this beautiful act, surely it's going to cause some kind of a shift in how you operate. Another example, the second one was, my wife made my favorite meal for supper this evening. My explanation for why this is good, today's our anniversary. Another option, my wife is thoughtful. She knows that the stress at work is getting to me and that I would enjoy having this special dinner. Or a third option, I requested this meal because we haven't had it in a while. That's a nice treat. So this invites us to take things deeper. Write down what you're thankful for. And I like the way that the book talks about it, though. It says, one good thing that happened to me today. It reminds us to look at the present, okay? Not at the, 5 years ago or even last week. What good thing happened to me today? And then, why did it happen? If you want to take a baby step, maybe this next, even tomorrow morning, or for something like this, it would be reflecting at the end of the day. My gratitude journal is for the morning. It's specifically designed that way. But the way that these questions are worded, it's a reflection on the day, which I think is great too. Sometimes we need to pause at the end of the day and think about what happened as a way of working through situations that may have not been great. This gives us an opportunity to do that by reflecting on the things that were great. So you write down what took place, and then, as you're just trying this on, then you write down why, and just do one thing. If you want to be super ambitious, you could do 2 things. But the the book encourages us just to do one thing um, each day. What's the good thing that happened, and then your explanation of why. I want to encourage you to do this if you aren't already keeping some sort of a gratitude journal or some account of your gratitude. I want to encourage you to do it. Another thing you could do is a gratitude jar. I'm sure some of you have heard of these. I don't have a gratitude jar here. I actually have a prayer jar. These are the names of my church members on slips of paper. And when I slow down long enough, I take out a slip of paper and I read their names and I pray about them. I pray for them. And many people have done something like this for gratitude. And so they'll cut up slips of paper bigger than this because these are kind of hard to write on. And they'll, at the end of the day, write down something that they're thankful for and stick it in the jar. And then at the end of a month, at the end of a year, that's a lot of gratitude to reflect on. And I know someone who's actually done that. And it was really meaningful for her to then go back and reflect on the notes in the jar at the end of the year. So there are different ways to keep track of your gratitude, and I encourage you to find a way that works for you. Another method that a church member shared a few weeks ago was actually using a calendar. And I think this is a great idea, especially for anyone who hangs calendars on your wall. Okay, if you still hang a calendar on your wall, you know, one of those, maybe it has puppies on it or flags or, spring flowers, whatever it may have on it, poems, recipes. There's enough space in each of those squares for each day of the year. There's just enough space to jot down a couple of notes. And so you can take time at the end of each day on your calendar, right then and there, to say, today is March 26th. Here's the space for March 26th. Here's what I'm going to write in that space. Dot, 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 and you're done. And then you have this calendar keepsake because you get to look through the calendar and you can literally see day by day what you engaged in and what made you happy, what made you smile, what made your heart grateful. And so it's another way to track your gratitude. Whatever method you choose, I'd love to hear from you in the future to know what you chose and how it's working for you. And whatever method you choose, please be patient with yourself because this sort of change doesn't happen overnight, usually. So if it's hard for you, if you miss some days, don't beat yourself up. Start where you are and keep moving. I'm going to wrap us up with just a few more notes about gratitude. These are some tips for success, and I'll share a couple of these. 6 ways to start enjoying a positive outlook now. Number 1, hope and believe in the best. Number 2, choose to focus on the positive and not the negative things. Doesn't mean you don't admit to the negative, but you choose where to focus. That's the key word. Express gratitude. Thanksgiving is a pillar of optimism. Number 4, color your world with optimism. Be optimistic about your choices. Be optimistic about your environment, different things like that. Number 5, live your vision. The chapter talks about figuring out what your vision is, what are your core values, and living that out. And then it says, number 6, dare to dream, be bold. So, my prayer for you as you move into this weekend, and for any of you celebrating the Sabbath that kicks into gear in just a little bit here, my prayer for you is that you will, day by day, baby step by baby step, find yourself optimistic and enjoying life to the fullest as a result. I'll pray for you. Jesus, thank you so much. Thank you for what you have done for us so that we can experience this optimism. We have hope because of you. And you are so willing, through the guidance of the Holy Spirit, to show us how to live so that we can, even in the craziest of times, even in the most painful of times, still be able to find our hope, still be able to speak words of peace, still be able to rustle up that optimism, that that ability to look at the world around us and see the good that is taking place. Thank you. And now, as we step into the Sabbath, may it be a reminder of your great peace and your great love for each of us. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. All right, folks. We'll see you on Sunday. Take care.